Hey everybody, welcome to the Ronline Report. Very special guest today. Some of you younger dudes probably have no idea who he is. It's time to let you guys know. This is one of the OGs in our sport. He's still very relevant. Please welcome Mr. Universe, John Brown. How are you, John?
Hey, how you doing there? What's up, Ron? How you doing, brother?
Good. So, your name came up recently because HBO has a series called Hard Knocks,
Right.
and they featured one of your two sons in the NFL. For those of
Yes.
you who don't know, you have two wide receivers in the NFL as your Amon-Ra St. Is it St. Brown?
Yeah, I changed the last name to St. Brown. We'll get into that later.
Okay, so he's a wide receiver for the Detroit Lions.
Yes.
Your oldest son, Eguanamious Tristan Imhotep J. St. Brown. He was a standout at Notre Dame. He's now wide receiver for Chicago Bears.
Yes, sir.
And your middle son is not in the NFL currently, Osiris Adrian Amon-Ra.
Yes.
But he played for Stanford.
Yes.
Is he a free agent? Is he trying to get back?
No, he hurt his foot in high school and had like a couple operations, so he decided not to play anymore.
Okay. So yeah, the reason you were featured because you played a massive role in their success in football.
Yes.
You had these boys lifting weights as kindergartners, it said.
Yeah.
And feeding them red meat for breakfast. Who does that? But clearly you had a plan.
Yeah, from at 5, 6, 7 years old, Amon-Ra was 5, Osiris was 6, and Eguanamious was 7. I decided, you know what, boys, it's time to start lifting weights. Because I watched them climb trees, pick up their bikes, move around. It's a form of resistance training if you're climbing a tree or picking your bike up and running around. So I figured supervised, not doing squats and certain exercises we didn't do, it should be okay. So I did it.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be pretty good. Everyone told me, no, John, don't do that. You're going to hurt those kids.
Yeah.
Go, look, let me do it the way I want. You do it the way you want with your kids, and we'll see how it works out.
Well, look how it worked out. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, a lot of dads dream of having one son in the NFL, but two, my goodness.
I should have had 3.
Should have had 3, but I mean,
geez, my other son's just as good as all of them.
Yeah. I'm just curious, had they wanted to become bodybuilders instead, or if
never let them. Never.
Okay.
No way. Listen, they had 3 choices. 1 was football, 2 was baseball, 3 was basketball. Here's the reason why.
Yeah.
I call that good parenting. I don't believe in, if you have a child, you want him to swim, okay, let him swim. But I think swimming is a stupid sport. I think soccer is a stupid sport. Not in Europe, but because here's the thing. I was a 5-time world champion. If I was a 5-time world champion in football, basketball, baseball, I'd have been paid heavily.
Yeah.
So I told my sons, look, you're not going to do anything where you're not going to get paid if you become a 5-time world champion. I was 6'2", 245 pounds, 250, and I could run. I was a great athlete, but I didn't have the right parenting to guide me. So I ended up in bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding, don't get me wrong, but hey, man, if you're a champion, I should have done boxing. What if your child becomes a world champion? What do they get for it? You got to think about that, in my opinion.
Oh, I think you made absolutely the right choice all day with that, for sure.
All these bodybuilders, they could do a lot of different sports, big and strong as they are.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, so many of them come from football, but they weren't good enough to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
They didn't have that skill set. Mr. 7-time Olympia, Phil Heath, he was good enough to play college basketball at 5'9", but the NBA was just not going to happen for him. But
right.
If someone like your sons obviously had the physicality and the athletic ability to do something great like that in a sport that pays very well, why not? Why not? So let's get into your story, because I've never really heard it. So I know you came from straight out of Compton, as I like to say. It's become almost like a pop culture cliche, Compton.
Yes.
I'm sure it wasn't when you grew up there. So how did you started training in 7th grade? This had to be like the early 70s, I'm guessing, when weightlifting and bodybuilding were not very popular at all yet.
Right. So, I was lifting weights in the 7th grade. Why? Because I was a long, tall, skinny kid, and I wanted to get bigger, just because all kids that I know want to have muscles. So I decided that's it. I'm going to start training and get some big muscles. And I was we would go to these little gyms, or this friend of mine, he had weights in his front yard. It seemed like every kid in the neighborhood had weights in their backyard somehow. So we'd go to different homes and lift weights. And one day I was in a park at Centinela Park in Los Angeles. And this guy was there. He was a really big, muscular guy. He saw me and my friends running around. Hey, come here. He goes, what do you guys do? I go, what do you mean? He goes, what sport? I said, football. He goes, no, man, you should do bodybuilding. You got a good physique. And so he made me flex, and me and my friend was afraid of him, so we did whatever he said. And so we're flexing and stuff. He goes, man, I'm telling you. And I think I was like 16 or 15 or something like that. He goes, you could win Mr. Universe. I never forget it. I know. And he was a really big, muscular guy. So he goes, you want to try it? I go, I don't know. He said, give me your dad's phone number. So I gave him my dad's number. He called my dad, told my dad, and my dad goes, you want to try it? I go, I guess, I don't know. So I went to a competition, the Mr. Watts. And it was an open division. I think I was 16 or something like that. And there was men in there. I was like probably one of the youngest guy. And it was like 30, 40 competitors. I came in third place.
Wow.
And the guy goes, see, you never done it. You had no clue what you were doing. You came in third place. If you knew what you were doing, you could have won. Trust me. Football's not for you. So I didn't like the fact that I was trying to play football really hard and doing the best that I could. And we were losing almost every game. I didn't like that I had to depend on 10 other guys to put my fate in their hands. So I decided, let me go to the store. I looked at some magazines. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, these guys, and I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger standing next to a Mercedes. So right away, I thought it was his. I thought, man, that guys are making money. That's it. I'm doing bodybuilding. Went to school, told the coach, hey, that's it. I'm quitting. I'm playing I want to be Mr. Universe. They all laughed at me. You're crazy. I was like 6'1" or 6 feet, 135, 140 pounds, something like that.
Whew. I can't believe you played football at that size. You must have been getting knocked around like a rag doll on the field. Yeah. So before we leave the football thing behind, I just want to ask, the team sucked you played for, but were you a really good player? I mean, did you?
I was a good player, I thought. And I thought the coaches were a little stupid, you know? And so I remember I went into the coach's office because I'm thinking, do I keep playing football or do I try to do bodybuilding? I said, let me ask you a question, coach. There's only so many colleges in the United States, and only one guy can start in each position on each team. How do they pick that guy from high school to attend the college, and how do they select that he's a starter? Because I like to go to the NFL.
Right.
He couldn't answer. He says, I don't know. I go, oh my God. So I went to the assistant coach, presented the same question. He couldn't answer it. I thought, oh my God, I'm in trouble here because no one knows how this thing works apparently. So after that, that's it. I'm done. I quit right there.
Wow.
Started bodybuilding.
The last thing I'll say about football is I wonder if you had better guidance, if you had a dad that got you really strong and, and coaches that knew where to guide you and say, well, the scouts are going to be at this game and, follow the right path.
Yes.
Obviously I think if you have 3 sons that were that talented, you must have, I assume that athletic ability comes from you, not their mom. So I'm assuming that potentially you could have been in the NFL if you'd had.
I could have. I was really good. I was a talented guy like my sons.
Yeah.
And I just didn't have the guidance. It comes down to guidance from my thing. What drives me crazy with parents. I have a good friend of mine. His daughters are such good athletes. It's unbelievable. And when they were young, I told my friends that, listen, they were doing soccer, basketball. I said, don't put them in those sports. What if they become champions? What are they going to get? They're athletes. They can do anything. It's up to you to guide them. Yeah. Put a tennis racket or a golf club in their hands. Right. Now they get paid. They're when I tell you the daughters are unbelievable, they're unbelievable. I have no clue, no question. If those were my daughters, they'll be tennis champions right now.
Yeah.
But he didn't understand. He didn't listen to me. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You got to think of these things, people.
I mean, clearly, I mean, there was a huge controversy about recently because of the whole situation with, what was her name? She's still in jail in Russia?
Brittany.
Brittany Ryan. You know, the disparity in the salaries between NBA and WNBA.
Yes.
The greatest WNBA player makes like less than the guy in the NBA that sits on the bench.
Yeah.
Because anyway,
well, that has something to do with TV ratings and
yeah, of course.
You know what I mean. Yeah. So, but let's say some of those WNBA players, don't tell me they couldn't have played tennis. Those are athletes,
right? Yeah.
There's some of them that could have. You know, it's just a question of, in my opinion, is guidance, parenting. You got to put them in the right place, right Pop Warner team, right elementary school, the right high school, the right college. All these things is parenting. The parents have to be there to guide them.
Right. So your bodybuilding career, you just talked about your first show as a 15 or 16-year-old. How long did it take you to get to the level where you won the NABA Universe twice, which, you know, before the Mr. Olympia was created, that was the show everyone in the world wanted to win. Yeah. Arnold won that, Bill Pearl, you know, all the greats of the previous era won that. And I think you're the only 2-time consecutive winner, correct?
No, I think there were some other guys. Okay. I got to look at the list to see. So I could be wrong. I don't know. I did it because, look, I was in 1979. I was in the Mr. America contest. Now, I knew I wasn't going to win. I wasn't ready, but I just wanted to get the experience. But there were some other guys in there, and I looked at all the athletes. There's one particular guy, I can't recall his name, Afro-American guy. I thought to myself, this dude is from head to toe, clearly the winner. And if he doesn't win, man, it was a lot of racism back then, okay? And he didn't win. I said, ooh, man, that's a problem for me, right? So I thought, wow, how can I win? I'm just sitting at home trying to figure out ways to break this wall down. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. Mike Glass called me and said, hey, John, Surgeon Bray wants to invite you to give you an invitation to compete in the Mr. World contest 1980. I thought, man, I don't know about that, Mike, because if I do it, they're going to blackball me. They're going to kick me out of the, I mean, I was only in the AAU. I was an amateur. So I wasn't even in the IFBB, but they would kick me out even if I'm not in, right? Yeah. So I said, let me think about it. And I thought about it, and I thought, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bill Pearl, all the great athletes, all the great bodybuilders on that list competed in that show. So as far as I was concerned, I said, I want to give it a go. So I left, and I tell you, it's the best thing I ever done. There's a lot of great bodybuilders in America, a lot all around the world, a lot of really good ones. I don't want to name names, but they don't have any titles. And they should have had a title. And now they're retired. And they can't, it's like, if you're Mr. Universe, it's like being the president. You're always a Mr. President, no matter what. So a lot of these guys didn't figure it out. So I was like, man, you know what? Good thing I left. And I tell you right now, Ron, one other thing, my brother, how do I say this? So I got blackballed, right?
Yeah.
And I came back here, and there was a magazine called Muscular Development. And they said, John, we want to do an article on you. Because Muscular Development was competing against, not Muscular Development, Muscle Digest, my bad.
Muscle Digest, yeah.
Muscle Digest. They were competing against Flex Magazine and Muscle Fitness, all this. But they couldn't, the IFBB athletes were not allowed to do articles for them.
Wow. Because
it wasn't owned by Joe Weider. So as an independent athlete, I was very valuable to them. Say, okay, here's a guy that just won the Mr. Universe contest. He's a local, let's get this guy. I said, great. But I said to them, I would only do it if you put me on the cover of the magazine. The guy said, okay, let me present that question to my boss. Came back, they said no. I said, okay, well, they can't do the article. No pictures, nothing.
Yeah.
So, okay. I go, why'd they say no? He put his head down. I said, what's wrong? He says, you really want to know? I go, yeah. He told me this. He said, because you're black.
Wow.
Now, I'm not making it up. It's a white guy.
I don't think
he said, because you're black. And I thought, are you serious? He goes, yeah, because they said that the sales go down with the black bodybuilders on the cover of the magazine. I bet that can't be true. There's black athletes all over the world. But anyway, whatever. I said, well, I'm still not going to do it. And so finally they gave in and they put me on the cover.
Wow.
And they did the article. But this is a true story. This is what happened.
Oh,
this and this is 1983, maybe.
So Lou Zwick would have been the editor of that magazine at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Lou through most of the 90s.
Yeah.
And Dr. Wong was the owner of the magazine.
Dr. Wong was the owner.
Yeah. I remember Muscle Digest. Yeah, that's a crazy story. Because
it was a lot of stuff going on back then, just to let you know,
Oh, yeah.
And so as I left to go to Europe, I was blackballed, ostracized and all this stuff here. Even now, I trained Shawn Ray, I trained Vince Taylor, I trained Melvin Anthony. But when I say I trained these guys, this means I trained them from zero. Yeah. They were nothing. They weren't even bodybuilders. Right. I took them from zero to hero. Okay? Not like some of these guys, they get these athletes when they're already good.
Yes.
I taught them from zero to hero. And I taught these guys how to pose. And these three guys are known as the best posers in the world. Why? Because they got it from me. But what I don't understand is this. Here we are in 2022. I'm still alive. And I see Melvin talking. I see Shawn. I see Vince Taylor talking about his posing routines. But no one's ever, you're the first guy that ever called me to ask me about my life. And I started this whole thing. I mean, the posing that I created.
I want to get into that because
but I appreciate that, Ron. You're the only guy.
No bodybuilder ever had dance moves in their posing routine until you started doing that. I remember vividly, you were almost retired. I think you were one show away from, I was the first pro bodybuilding show I ever went to was the 1991 Ironman Pro in Redondo Beach. I think you did the San Jose. It was like you did one more show after that.
The San Jose.
But I had never seen anything like that because later that year, Vince Taylor did the Terminator routine at the Olympia. But prior to this, I'd never seen. I think you were up there for like 7 or 8 minutes. It was not a standard 2-minute routine and popping and locking and everything.
Yes.
I said, I've never seen anything. And the crowd was going bananas. Yeah. They'd never, some of them, obviously, they were LA crowd. They'd seen you before, but a lot of us hadn't. I just want to know, where did you even get the idea? Because the first time you did that, people must have been like, what are you doing? You can't dance in a posing routine.
Yeah, they didn't, some liked it, some didn't. So what happened was, I had a friend of mine named Tom Sinchek, and Tom knew that because we were college mates and we would all go out dancing. He knew what I could do, like, pop lock and all that stuff and break dance. He knew I could do a lot of stuff because we would do it and play around. So one day I was at a show. He goes, John, before the show, he goes, John, you got to do that on stage. I go, what? No, man, no. He goes, John, trust me. The audience is going to love it. I said, no, I don't know, Tom. So he made me do it. He said, you better do it. So I said, all right, I'll do it. And he was right. They went crazy, right? I'm like, holy crap. So, so what I did was this. I got a lot of flack. A lot of people would say, John Brown doesn't, Chris Dickerson. He was on TV saying, well, John Brown, next bodybuilder coming up, he's a great poser, but he doesn't take bodybuilding seriously because, he just like to have fun. But no, here's why I did it. First of all, I got a lot of flack from the judges. That's not posing. You can't do that. So I said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And in addition to that, Ron, I was the first guy to mix music. Everybody used one song, classical music, and that was it. I was the first guy to mix 3 and 4 songs in. Wow. So I said, I'm going to do the first part of my routine will be dedicated to the judges. So I'll do a slow, typical traditional routine. And then the second half is for the audience. And that's when I started mixing the music and giving the people what they want. And so that's how mixing music came in, and that's why I started all that. And that's what happened. Next, the rest was history.
You were 6'2", about 250, which, in those days, in the 80s, that was still a big dude. Now we got guys like 5'6", 250, like Nick Walker. But I'm sure you've seen this classic physique division blossom over the past few years. And I think that's something, had it been around in your era, you could have been very dominant in that. You just didn't, I don't think you had the mass to hang with, the Lee Haneys and Mike Christians, who were just thicker guys. But
no. Back up. Okay. Back up there. That's not true.
Okay.
I was on stage 242, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Back then, before before 1985,
Yeah.
80, no, 80, 83, somewhere around then, Lee Haney was about the same weight as me.
Yeah.
And then they started messing with other things that I won't describe. And they went to 280.
Wow.
But I can tell you something. I was a bodybuilder. I believe in bodybuilding, not muscle building. I had 22-inch arms. You know, I had a 29-inch waist, 30-inch waist.
Wow.
Let me explain something to you. I had a good physique. Today, it's not bodybuilding. It's muscle building. You see? So I had a real, like you say, classical. But as far as I'm concerned, you got to look aesthetic. You got to look beautiful. You can't look ugly. You have to look beautiful. I had a beautiful physique. Yeah. You know, I was perfect. You know, like Flex Wheeler. He has a beautiful physique.
Yeah. When do you think things really changed? At what point did mass become so much more important over aesthetics?
It was always creeping into the thing. I think mass at the back of the judge's mind was I think it was always there, you know, prevalent, because when I looked at like Surgeon Brave, for me, was the best bodybuilder ever. No, bar none. I'm talking about physique. Like, let's talk about ballet for a second. If you want to be a ballet dancer, you gotta have a certain foot. You gotta be able to bend your foot a certain way. You gotta have a certain structure. You just can't, any Joe off the street can't be a ballet dancer. You gotta have certain things you gotta be born with. And I think that should apply to bodybuilding. That's why the classic physique is taken off. But the only thing about the classic physique is those shorts they're wearing. It's kind of weird. They don't work their leg. It's like jailhouse bodybuilders. They got big tops and little legs. It's kind of weird, you know?
Well, no, I think you're thinking about the board shorts, men's physique.
Yeah.
Classic physique, the shorts started out like bike shorts, and now they're almost, I'd say they're like the size of the trunks in the early 80s. They're still not.
Okay, it's better. Okay.
Yeah, the open guys have like thongs, basically. It's just like a string on the side. The classic ones have a little more coverage on the side. Yeah, which thank God, because when it first came out in 2016, 2017, they looked like bike shorts. They were like halfway down the thigh.
Not good. Yeah,
ridiculous.
No good.
I want to get into your mentorship, because like you said, these are three of the greats in our sport. Especially we're talking about Shawn Ray, multiple Olympia runner-up, Arnold Classic champ. Vince Taylor, he won the Arnold. He was he won, I don't know how many, 5, 6 Masters Olympia. We're actually speaking on his 66th birthday today. Everyone's wishing him happy birthday.
Oh wow, happy birthday, Big Vin.
Yeah. But man, how did you discover? I just want to go over those two guys in particular, because Shawn Ray, I think you started working with him when he was like a high school football player out of Orange County, correct?
Yes, I'm in the gym working out. This kid comes in, and I would see him every day in the corner, kind of far away from me, but staring at me, right? Always staring at me. So I went up to him and said, "Hey, what's your name?" He said, "Shawn." I said, "What do you do?" "I play football." "Where?" "At El Dorado High School." I go, "Okay. You want to bodybuild, don't you?" He goes, "No, I don't know. Why?" I said, "Because you keep staring at me, right?" And he goes, "Well, I never thought of it, maybe." And so I said, "Okay, well, why don't you come in tomorrow? Let's work out together and see what you got, see what you're made of." So he came in, we started working out, and came in the next day, we started working out, kept working out. I said, "Well, okay, you can do both. You can play football and you can bodybuild. So let's try a teenage show, but let's get you ready." So, and then I came to my house every other day to work on his posing. I said, "You got to learn how to pose." So I showed him how to pose and just kept working with him. And he went to his first teenage contest. I think I don't know if he won or came in second, but he was really, really good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy, because you'd think, I know Vince was older than Shawn.
Vince is older.
Vince is older, but you met him later. I believe was he working as a civilian worker over like
in Germany,
a U.S. Army base in Germany?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, you're very, I think I remember talking to him that you were probably still are tremendously popular in Germany. You made so many appearances. You have a huge fan base. You met your wife there, I think.
Yes.
So how did you meet Vince? How did that happen? Because I
was at a bodybuilding show in Berlin where he lived. Like you say, he was working for the Army.
Yeah. And
him and his buddies are signing autographs. They came up to my table and talking, and we're just talking back and forth. I go, "Hey, you from America?" They go, "Yeah, we work with the Army and this and that." It's okay. And then one of his friends says, "Hey, Vince, my friend should compete." And I looked at him and said, "Okay, yeah, maybe you should." But he was lean, and it didn't look like he lifted weights really. I mean, he goes, He has big, giant calves. I'll never forget it. Show him your calves. And Vince was standing there, kind of like, I don't know. Show him your calves. So Vince pulled the pant leg up. Oh my God. That was the biggest, nastiest calf I had ever seen. I mean, it looked like it was like, even then, it was like 19 inches.
Wow.
It just ripped up. I go, holy crap. What is that? Was freaky, you know?
Yeah.
But the rest of his body was like little. And I thought, wow, okay, well, you got some crazy, freaky calves. And he said, okay, can I come work out with you? I go, yeah. So he came to a gym in Germany. We started working out. And so you got to come to California. So he flew to California, started working out with me, and I put him through it. And my training routine is really hard. Most guys can't handle it. It's very, very difficult. So Vince Taylor had a hard time with it. I said, just keep going, keep going. And he went back to Germany, would call me up. Okay, John, what do I do? I'm too heavy. I'm too light. I'm this and that. And I would give him advice. Then he'd come back. We'll work out again. Then I'll teach him how to pose. And just like Shawn Ray, same thing.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know what, it was probably in Flex or something, Muscle Fitness. Vince Taylor talked about the first time you brought him out to train, and Shawn Ray was in the same gym. And Shawn was probably like 10 years younger than him, I'm thinking. Yeah, it must be. But, Vince came over and asked Shawn, hey, how big are your arms? And Shawn just looked at him and said, they're big, Buck. Left it at that. Yeah. But Melvin Anthony, I'll touch on, because I think out of the three of them, he's the best poser, and he's probably the most similar. He had his own style, but it definitely borrowed from a huge influence from your style of posing, from I remember from your routines. Did you see that ability in him early on, that he would be able to express himself that way?
Yeah, I got a call from a guy, and he goes, John, there's a kid you got to help, man. If you don't help him, he won't ever make it. But if you help me, he'll make it. I said, dude, I got to go to Europe. So I left, went to Europe, came back. He called me again. This guy kept calling me for like, man, at least 6 months. You got to see this guy, Melvin. He goes to Cal State Fullerton, but you got to help him. And so I said, all right, bring the guy to my house. So here we go again. So he walks in. I said, okay, take your shirt off, drop the pants. Let me see everything.
Yeah. And
he was all nervous, like, what are you talking about? I said, I got to see what you look like. This guy's bragging about you. Turn around, quarter turn. It's okay. You have potential. How long you been lifting? He told me. I said, okay, so what are you doing tomorrow? Come to the gym, work out with me. So he came to the gym. I started working out with him, and said, okay, we're going to do a show. And I had to start teaching him how to pose, just like I did with all three of them. And I, right in my kitchen, I taught him how to pose, how to move. And then he told me his friend goes, hey, John, he can dance too. I said, you can dance? He goes, well, I can, break the pop lock. And I said, let me see. And she starts, oh my God, this guy's really good, right? He's phenomenal. And I said, okay, good. So we'll do this. Let's put a routine together. And next thing I know, the rest was history. He won a lot of championships, a good bodybuilder.
I remember you brought him. I was working for Lou's Wick, and we put on the Muscle Mania shows. And the first year that we put it on, it started off as an NPC. They were NPC national qualifiers. Then they just turned into these unsanctioned natural shows. In the first year, you brought him in. You brought Melvin to that show to compete. His nickname was Buffalo. I remember that.
Yeah. Dude, you got a good memory. Holy mackerel.
It's weird. I can't remember things I did yesterday, but I can remember some things from 30
years.
Yeah. And I remember, Lou's like, John Brown's got this new kid, Melvin Anthony. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But then when he, because we hear that all the time, there's potential, but he came out and I was like, geez. It's a real deal. And he poses like John. He's got this, get the crowd going crazy on their feet, which, I want to ask you about that, because I think posing, especially, we call it open bodybuilding. Back in our day, we didn't say open this, it was just bodybuilding. Yes. But now we have to be specific. The open bodybuilders, like at the Mr. Olympia level, I go to probably about a dozen pro shows a year, and at least half the guys don't even have a routine. It's very obvious to me. There's pauses, they repeat, they're just winging it up there because it doesn't get judged. They stopped judging it long ago.
Oh,
so
I didn't know
that. They said, well, if it's not judged, I'm not going to bother. And it's embarrassing to me to watch someone. I could see in their eyes, like, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And when you see occasionally, there's only maybe 1, 2, 3 guys at any pro show I go to that have A, routine, and B, something that they clearly put together with some thought, and they wanted some choreography where it's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in your day, was posing considered a lot more important than you think it might be now?
Yeah, it was important. It was very important back in the day. Like I said, I haven't been to a show in a long time, so I don't know. Based on what you said, that's interesting, but it was very important. So here's some posing tips. The first thing, let's talk about international bodybuilding. You got to make sure whatever song you choose, that region of the world, it was a hit song, a very popular song. Everyone's familiar with it. If not, it makes it more difficult to win them over. So if you play a song that they all like, you got them right off the bat, number one. Second thing I would say is, there's a lot of things that are important, but transitions. Transitions is the most important part of posing, in my opinion. Meaning, if you do a double arm bicep, and from the double arm bicep, you want to move into a side chest. The release of your fingers can't be like that. It has to be like that. Everything must be slow. I should be able to look at a bodybuilder, have him do a double arm bicep, freeze, and then when he's transitioning into his next pose, I should not see that transition happen. It should just start flowing.
Yeah.
So the transitions are very, very important. You got to be able to practice moving slow in transition. Those are very important. And if you're not a dancer, if you're not animated, you can't force it. It'll look fake.
Yeah.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Look at Shawn Ray. He was a good poser, but he's not a good dancer, so he never tried to do that. But he still was very good, very successful, very likable as a poser because of that, you know?
Yeah.
So Melvin did more of the dancing. Even Vince Taylor, they all moved the same. They pretty much used the same music. One day I was sitting in a show, I think it was the Arnold Classic. Arnold, I think it was. And I'm behind Shawn Ray's mom. Vince Taylor came on stage and she was pissed. I'll never forget. She goes, "Look at him. That boy done stole my son's routine, stole all his moves, stole everything from him." I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking, well, it's because I taught them both the same thing, you know?
She had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the only thing worse than that is when someone puts a routine together and they try to dance and they're not
Not good.
It's cringy because you're like,
Yes.
you're embarrassed for them.
Yes.
Especially, you know, I'll put it out there. Some white guys think they can dance up there, and
No.
Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
You gotta know who you are.
Yeah.
And but there's a lot to pose. I just like feet, even the foot. Even if Melvin's foot was wrong, we would go over hours and hours just getting his foot right on one pose.
Wow.
Just the foot. Everything must be perfect in order to be successful with that. Yeah. And you got to be able to feel the music. It has to get into your soul. You almost have to get into a suffering state of mind in order to really, and the audience feel that, you know?
So I'm curious, out of all your routines, all the songs you mixed in, was there ever any one song that was always like, it filled you with much more emotion than any other song that you ever used?
No. It was always related to the time in life in which I was in.
Okay.
I remember this girl broke my heart. Ah, man, she got me good.
Yep.
And there was a song, just remind me of her. And when I played that song, oh man, I could just really go crazy. Wow. I could really get into a state of suffering and the audience would feel that, you know? Yeah. So it just depends. And then I try to make sure, like I said, I went to you would know the date better than I would. It was in Canada. Mr. Canada, or
they did
a Grand Prix.
They did they used to do the Canada Pro Cup. They used to do a Montreal Pro Show. If you're going back further than that, I'm going to have trouble.
It was it was in 1989, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
One of those shows. So I wrote a letter to get back into the IFBB, right? So they let me in. Yeah. And so I'm training for this show in Canada. So they made me write a letter saying I apologize for going to the other organization, all this stupid stuff.
Yeah.
I had to actually write a letter. Can you believe that?
Oh yeah.
And so I wrote the letter. They let me in. 2 weeks before the show, they called me up. They told me also for that year, I couldn't do no more appearances in Europe. So I couldn't make any money. So the little money I had, I was trying to live off that and train for the show because I couldn't make any money. And then when I flew to Canada, I went to the police station to stay there because I had no money for a hotel.
Wow.
So, but also I gotta say, 2 weeks before the show, I get a call saying my application has been revoked. I'm not able to compete. 3 weeks or something like that. I said, oh, come on, man. I spent every dime I can to get ready for this show. Yeah. So they told me that, and I thought, oh, wow. So I petitioned and they finally let me in. But I had stopped. I went off my diet and I gained weight. And 2 weeks before, they said I can compete. Wow. So I said, all right, well, I'll just go and do the best I can. And I went to that show. And like I said, I didn't have any money. So I stayed at the police station, right? Yeah. Because I couldn't afford a hotel. Wow. And there was a guy I met, I forgot who it was. He said I could stay in his room. I said, really? He said, yes, all right, cool. So I stayed in his room. And I knew I wasn't going to win because I stopped, I went off my diet for a couple of weeks.
Right.
So I thought, but I got to compete. And I'll never forget this. What was that guy's name? Not Jim Mannion.
Wayne DeMilia?
Wayne DeMilia. Came backstage. No. Some guy from Canada.
Tony
Blaine? A judge from Canada. I don't know his name. He came back and said, hey, I heard a lot about your posing routine. I read a lot of stories. Hope you live up to the hype. I never forget it. And I always had 2 cassettes that I carried with me. One to tear the house down, and one was just okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I gave the guy the okay tape early in the day. And when that guy said that to me, I went back to the guy and said, hey, give me that tape back. Play this tape. And I have instructions. At some point in the routine, there's going to be no music being played. Don't think it's broken. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. I got everything set up. Okay. So what I would do is I started posing. And I said to myself, no matter what you do, John, you got to tear this house down tonight. And I tell you right now, I gave everything I had. And at the end of that routine, they stood up. I got a standing ovation. Joe Weider was sitting in the front row right in front of me, and the guy who made that comment. And I didn't leave the stage until they stood up. And when they stood up, I started walking off, but I started counting to myself, 1001, 1002, 1003, a silent count, because I had my tape set up for the next song to come on, because I figured I'm going to get an encore.
Yeah.
See? So I was arrogant, but I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
So next thing I know, after the 10th step, they start saying more, more, more. And I said, I hope the guy don't touch the tape, because there was no music. Right. All of a sudden, Rolling Stones' Satisfaction came on. And the house went crazy. Tore the house down. When I tell you I tore that house down, I think I had like 3 encores.
Wow.
Something like that, right?
I
wasn't even shaped.
I've never seen 1 encore in bodybuilding.
I had 3. I left the stage. The guy runs back. Wayne DeMilia came backstage. Hey, John. Look, sorry for all the stuff that went on, but we want to invite you to the Night of Champions. Everything's paid for. Don't worry about it. We're really sorry, and apologizing to me after that.
Very nice. Yeah. And you made it to the Olympia once, and it was a heck of a year. It was 85.
Yeah.
One of the Lee Haney years, but man, what a lineup. Gaspari that was his first Olympia. Tom Platz was there. Sergio Oliva was in that Olympia. Yeah. So it was, you won many shows, you competed in many. Would you say that was a highlight of your
No, because I knew it was funny style, what was going on in bodybuilding, even after that show, I saw in some magazine, they were comparing my photos against Muhammad McAway, saying, how could this guy take, I don't know if he took 2nd or 3rd, how could he just take that and this guy take 12? Look at the 2 physiques, they're the same. Yeah. What's going on here? So it was funny style. So I thought, well, you know what? Look, man, I had 5 titles already. I just wanted to compete against those guys because I knew I was as good as them, and it is what for me, the highlight of my career was winning the first Mr. Universe or Mr. World. That was it. Because look, that's what we're all out here to do, try to get our name on this list. And that was fine with me, you know?
So Mr. Universe, you know, you still say, if you still say that to somebody who's like not a bodybuilding fan, I think to most regular people, mainstream people, that would carry more weight. You say I'm Mr. America or Mr. Universe, even though those titles now they're obsolete compared to Olympia, but the average person would be like, wow. You'd say Mr. Olympia, a lot of them be like, huh, what's that? What's Olympia?
Exactly. The Mr. Universe is a stronger title. Yeah. I'm telling you.
It's a universe. The whole
yeah, they all know that. Miss Universe, Mr. Universe, everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
So when I started training my sons, you know, one thing about my sons I want to interject here. See, my sons were, when they were young, I went to their school and I said, let me see what they're eating. And I tell you, Ron, I did not like the lunch program. I said, okay, boys, we got to change this because, you know, I want you guys to go to the NFL.
Right.
And you can't go to the NFL at school eating this type of food. So I designed this protein here, cane protein for them.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I designed this for my boys to take. Now, for a long time, I never gave it to anyone, didn't sell it, just had it made for them to make them stronger than most athletes. And sure enough, they start getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I got to say something. I know I'm bragging a little bit, but guess what? Sometimes if you don't blow your own horn, there ain't no music. So I got to blow my own horn here, you know, because ain't nobody else blowing it for me. So my sons were 4.3 students. They spoke 3 languages, German, French, and English.
Wow.
They took the SAT in 3 languages.
Jeez.
In 3 languages. I had schools like Stanford, Notre Dame, all these big schools. Mr. Brown, we want to give every boy in your house a scholarship.
Wow.
Mr. Brown, every kid in your house a scholarship. Like that. My kids were pretty amazing. It's just because, it's all because I give a lot of credit to bodybuilding, almost all of it. All of it to bodybuilding. And people say, why, John? Because listen, it's an individual sport. It's not a team sport. Team sports make you weak. It's an individual sport. You're the manager, you're the coach, you're the agent, you're the trainer, you do everything. I want to see somebody like Mike Tyson win a world championship in boxing without a manager or a trainer by himself. To be a championship bodybuilder, that guy has to be well-rounded because you have to do everything. So thank God I was a bodybuilder because I understand the volume of work. Think about it. You try to win Mr. Olympia. I don't care if it's Mr. Teenage California. I don't care what it is. Every athlete on the planet is invited to the Mr. Olympia, to the Mr. World, to the Mr. Universe. And only one guy can win. Think about that. Every human being with 2 legs are invited. So to beat those guys, you have to understand something about the volume of work. And I took that simple thing from bodybuilding and put it into my kids. Say, look, young men, don't worry about it. Just do what your dad says. You're going to be all right. Because the volume of work is the thing that separates you. And I'm not a lazy parent. I'm not a lazy parent. You don't have lazy kids. You only have lazy parents. There's a lot of parents out there that are lazy, that won't take their kids to work out, won't put the extra work in. But the sad part is they think this is a volume of work. You go to practice, you do what your coach says, you do what he tells you. No, the volume of work is much more. You got to understand that. And you learn that from bodybuilding.
How did you go from a protein supplement that you only produce for your 3 sons to, you know, marketing it to a broader audience?
Well, I wanted to have my sons have the advantage back then. And when my last son got into college, I started selling it. Even my last son, Amon-Ra, was pissed. Papa, they call me Papa, right? Yeah. He said, Papa, don't sell it to people. Why are you doing that? That's just for us. He didn't want me to sell it to anybody.
Wow.
So guys out there that want to get strong, I got a good product. All you got to do is go to caneprotein.com. You can order it, and also you can download my training program. Now, you may think, how do I say this? I got to be careful with this.
Don't worry about being PC here. You're not going to.
No, but the thing is, you go to my website and you can download my training program. Now, a lot of people want to say, oh, John is crazy, but it's not crazy. Here's the thing. You have 2 choices. You can train with weights and eat right and get your body naturally strong, or you can do it an artificial way. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Okay. What you're going to read on my website is how to make it grow with no artificial help. You got to, because when I came up in Compton, guys were coming out of the penitentiary. There's no steroids and nothing like that in the penitentiary. 20-inch arms, 19 years old, out of the penitentiary. I'm like, whoa. And now we would look at those guys and copy their workouts. Just stay away from them because we're afraid of them, but we copied their workouts. And it's how you get big, strong, naturally. It is possible. You can't get as big as those guys, but you can look. When I was 17, I haven't even heard of a steroid. Never even heard of one.
Right.
I had 17-inch arms. When I was 18, I had 18-inch arms. When I was 19, I had 19-inch arms. I never heard of a steroid.
Wow.
And when I turned 20, my arms didn't get to 20. They got to 19 and a half. I'll never forget it. So it's possible. It's possible to get 19 to 20-inch arms just by lifting weights if you understand how to do it right.
Yeah, you need a little bit of genetics too. But I did want to get into that because the drug situation has changed so drastically from when you started competing, and even when you retired from competing in the early 90s. It's a whole other world now, as I'm sure you're at least a little bit aware. Guys use a lot more stuff, a lot of different things that didn't even exist back in your day with the peptides, and they're into insulin and IGF-1 and growth hormone and thyroid meds and all kinds of stuff. And past couple of years, we've lost a lot of bodybuilders, and we're talking guys under the age of 50, some of them in their 30s, dropping dead, like poor George Peterson in his hotel room 2 days before he would have been on the Olympia stage last year. We lost him. Has it been alarming for you to see the progression of the drug use and the health problems?
Yes, I hear about it. And I don't know much about like exactly what they're taking. You know, some of the things you mentioned, I heard of. It's extremely alarming. I wanted to write an article about that in 1980. I think it was 85, 89.
Okay.
I wrote an article for Muscle and Fitness, and they called me the Black Voice, right? And I would just, but one thing, sorry, I'm all over the place, but one thing I want to say about Joe Weider himself, he always treated me good. That guy always treated me fair.
Okay.
Get that out of there right away. So I'm writing an article for Muscle and Fitness, and I wanted to write an article about this then, but I didn't want to use my name because some of these guys are just trying to feed their families. I don't want to be the guy because I have to name names to really make it make sense. So, but they said, no, you can't do it. But since I couldn't do it, because I was let me write names down and say, look, this guy has a problem. This guy died. This guy died. This guy died. At some point, you got to look at it and go, look, something seems wrong here. I'm just putting out the names, but I didn't want to, because I would have to name names, and I didn't want to name names that have my name attached to it. John Brown's talking bad about bodybuilders. That's not what it was. I saw that in 1985 that it was bad. Wow. When did Ben Aziza die? Somewhere around there, right?
92.
In 92?
Yeah. Yeah.
When Ben Aziza and Andre Munster died, it was getting crazier even back then. Yeah. It was real bad.
I mean, that was back then. We were losing a couple guys a year at the most.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God! But this past 2 years, you could make a laundry list of like 30, 40 people. Sean Roden, Mr. Olympia, George Peterson, John Meadows. You could go down the line. It's really crazy. I'm not going to get into the virus and the vaccine. They have to have had something to do with it, but we've never seen this many men in bodybuilding dying prematurely before their time. Whereas, you look at someone like, how old are you now, John? Can you say?
I never tell the age. My wife don't even know.
Let's say she
knows, but she doesn't.
You're over 60.
Yeah.
I'll use Lee Haney as an example. Lee is 60. How old is he now? 50. I think he's like 64. Anyway, he's in perfect health. Joints are fine. I see him at shows. I see other guys that they're 40 and they look like they're 60. They're hobbling around because their hips are shot, their lower back is shot, their knees are shot. Some of them health problems, you could see they don't look good, like health-wise, their kidneys are starting to fail. heart, all kinds of health issues. And it makes me sad because this is supposed to be, you know, even when I got into it, it was supposed to be a sport about health and vitality and all this, that California golden fantasy we all had.
Yes.
These are the healthiest people in the world. And some of these guys I know, they're some of the unhealthiest people in the world. You know, these 290 pounds ripped muscle on stage where looks like they can barely move. I mean, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but I really do long for, I'm glad I'm at least old enough that I got to experience some of the 80s and the 90s before things went way overboard like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm just here. I'm just a voice to let young athletes know, look, yes, you can lift weights and get 18, 19, 20-inch arm without using anything. You know, of course, you're going to need some proteins and eat right and all that there. And we'll talk about eating right in another minute here. But it's possible. So don't let anyone tell you it's not. If you're an athlete, not a bodybuilder, you're an athlete, you take some roids or any of that stuff, it makes your tendons weak. So you're going to start tearing and pulling stuff. All these guys who take that stuff, they start tearing their bodies break down. So if you're an athlete and you want to go a long ways in basketball, baseball, don't do it because it will weaken your tendons by nature and you'll pull stuff, you'll never make it. Please understand that. And in terms of eating right, look, you see the shirt I got? It says eat dirty. Because here's the thing, man. I got into football and I'm at a college and this recruit is talking to my son. And somehow he told my son, well, if you come to our school, we'll get you to eat clean. You weigh 200 now. Maybe you should weigh like 185. It optimize your speed and your talent. And I'm looking at this guy thinking, what the hell is he talking about? He's crazy. So when he left, I told my son, don't listen to him. Don't eat clean. If you're an athlete, you better eat dirty. You got to eat dirty. What's eat dirty? Red meat, ice cream. You eat everything. Look, as you know, as a bodybuilder, when I was on a diet, I lost 30% of my strength. You lose your strength, but you won't know it unless you're a bodybuilder. That's why I give credit to bodybuilding for my sons, because I knew that. I said, don't do that. Don't listen to that guy. He doesn't know. You'll lose any bodybuilder you ask on that diet, eating clean. They're like, oh man, I'm not as strong, but I look good. So if you're doing a sport where you have to perform, you do not want to be on a diet. You want to eat dirty. Trust me on that.
Oh, I mean, Michael Phelps, the swimmer, I remember reading what he would eat in a day. And it was like 20,000, 30,000 calories, pizza, ice cream, cookies. You know, he had chicken and stuff in there too, red meat, but it was all calories. It's funny how bodybuilders, you know, we get this rap for being not as bright, but nutritionally, we've always been so far ahead of popular culture, even the medical world. You know, like keto diets. You were probably eating keto diets back in like 1978, you know, before it had a name.
I was a natural. I was more of a. I went on some diets to test it to see, and that's how I know I lost strength. But I can tell you this: anybody who knows me would tell you, man, John Brown never really went on a diet. I went on some severe diets, just to see. So I knew how. Oh, I got weak, and Mr. Universe, the first one. I'm sitting. True story. At breakfast, morning of. And I'm eating cereal with milk. I'm eating pancakes. Ed Giuliani was sitting across from me. He goes, John, are you competing? I go, yeah. How the hell what are you eating? What are you doing? Look, I was a guy who didn't really have to diet. All I had to do was go on eat hot dogs for like 3 weeks. I ate a lot of hot dogs. And I got ripped. Wow. I was just naturally I was just naturally in shape all the time.
Yeah.
So I was real gifted in that way, you know. Some guys are not like that, you know. No. And another thing about Europe, talking about blowing my horn, here's what I want people to know. I left in 1980 to go to the Mr. World. I had no clue what's going on in Europe. I get there, I go off stage, and I won the contest, and I got mobbed by people. I thought, what the hell is going on here, right? Hey, John, we're from Italy. We're from France. We're from London. We're from here. We're from there. We want you to come compete or do a guest posing. I thought, all right. So I did it. I asked Serge, how much should I charge him? So he told me. So I was charging guys. Hey, John, can you come give a seminar at our gym? Yeah. Serge, how much do I charge him? So I'm doing this, right? Yeah. But let me tell you something. At that time, nobody bodybuilder was making money except me. There was no contract. We wasn't giving people money, really.
Right.
They were making nothing. I was pulling down. I would go there in a month. I could put on 20,000 easy. Now that may not seem like a lot now, but in the early 80s,
sure it is.
Yeah. $20,000. Yeah. I would bring 60,000 home. I would leave. I would always come home with 60,000.
Were you one of the first guys to really make a good living at those FIBO expos in Germany?
FIBO was there because of me.
There you go. Explain.
Because of me. I was not smart back then, I have to say, because there was two guys, Volker Ebner and Kurt Tehan, two Germans. Yeah. I was talking to them about this thing that Wally Boyko had in America called the Expo. I don't know if you remember the Expo. He had that at Disneyland. Yeah. And it was a good event. And I knew that the Europeans are fanatics with bodybuilding. I said, if you did that here, it'll be amazing. Volker Ebner said, bring me the prospect when you come back next time. So I brought it to them. I said, here it is. They looked at it. Oh, and they sell booths and they do this. Oh, okay. Volker Ebner, Kurt Tehan did the FIBO because I brought them that prospect to show them how Wally Boyko was doing it. But I wasn't smart to know, hey, give me a piece of it.
Yeah. So basically, right? You invented FIBO. Basically.
I invented FIBO. Without that, it wouldn't happen.
Wow.
And there was a guy named Ton Masson in Holland who did it first. I gave it to him too. Ton Masson did it first. Kurt Tehan went and looked at it and said, okay, we see what it is. And they did it in Germany. So the FIBO came up because of me. You understand? Hopefully so my point in going to all these shows was this. There's something I'm going to say, but I never said to anybody. First time I'm saying it. Even Shawn Ray. He would tell me, hey, I'm going to Europe. I said, okay, good. How many shows you got? I'm just going to do one. I thought, you're going to fly all the way there for one show? Wow, okay. I would never do that. So here's what I did. I found out how they were all fanatics. So I went to England, for an example, or I went to France or Poland, wherever. I find a guy who had a gym and who spoke English. I said, you have a gym and you speak English? Okay, so you're going to be my guy in Poland. So what I'm going to do is this is before email. So I would fax them some dates. Here's my dates and I'm available. And so give me some shows. So what I want you to do is get a show in Poland. And if there's a guest posing on Saturday, that Wednesday, I want to do somewhere get a gym to do a seminar, and then I'll write it down. Okay, good. And then I'll get another guy in every country had these guys planted. And I would give them 10% of it, of my purse. Because I found out in Europe, if I'm in your gym and I'm from America, the newspaper for free will come by and do a story on me and put you in the newspaper. Other than that, you got to pay. They would never come by. So I said, look, it's good for you because you go to the newspaper and they're going to come because I'm from America. And they're going to come to your gym. They're going to promote your gym. And I'm going to do a seminar. And then they had a thing called disco shows. So on Thursday night where the disco was slow, I would go in there and do a guest posing and they'll give me another $1,500. It was just the craziest thing. I was cleaning up. Wow. I'm telling you. And nobody here was making a dime. And before I left my house, I knew I had at least $60,000 already in my pocket. Nice. Before I left my house. I would never come from one show. This is something these guys don't understand how to orchestrate. So I put it together. When I say I went on a tour, it was a real tour. I would tell the guy in France, I can't go to France on that day because I'm too far away. I'm in Spain. So I'm in Spain for a week. If I'm there for a week, I need 3 shows or I'm not coming. Yeah. I need to make so much money or I'm not getting on the airplane. So I set all this up, but I made one mistake. Remember, I'm blackballed. Yep. And I'm from America. Mr. California at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. I bought a brand new convertible Mercedes. Now remember, no one had nothing back then. Right. There was no contract, no one had money. I was probably the only guy that had money. I drove that Mercedes and parked it in the red, and I sat on the hood until the show came out. And they let the show out, all the bodybuilders came and gathered around me. Hey, John, how you doing? I said, I'm good. I'm putting it in their face. I'm thinking, what's going on in Europe? I said, nothing. But they're looking at my car saying, no, something's going on in Europe, right? Next thing I know, they all were in Europe. And I killed my business.
Wow.
So there's a lesson to be learned there.
Well,
I didn't know that.
You killed your business, but you helped out a lot of people. A lot of other guys make money who probably never would have made much, if anything, from bodybuilding. So
I started a lot of stuff, but I never got credit for it. So I'm taking the credit.
Wow. That's why I'm glad we're doing this right now, because hopefully people will learn. I mean, FIBO, older guys know that you were the one who started out, Shawn Ray, Vince Taylor, Melvin Anthony. Sure, a lot of the young guys have no idea. Yeah. So, and the innovating with the dancing and the posing, so many things that, you really started. FIBO, yeah. I think I had heard that you started FIBO. I think I remember that, but that's because I've never been to it, but apparently it's way bigger than the Arnold Classic Expo.
Oh my God. At one point, it was so big, you had to take buses from one hall to the next. Seriously, it was that big. And I couldn't believe I didn't get anything out of it. I'm like, God, you're so stupid, But I was young, I didn't know,
Yeah, you were a kid, basically.
And they sold it for like, I think, 78 million Deutschmarks.
Wow.
It was some crazy thing they sold it for.
Sounds like a lot of money. But
yeah. But anyway. it was a very interesting ride. And I always tell people the best thing I ever done was bodybuilding, because it prepared me to prepare my sons.
Yeah. I mean,
and like I said, any of those young athletes out there listening, they go to Cane Protein, and also on Instagram, you get me on Cane Protein, I'll answer. If you send me a DM, I'll answer your questions, but stay away from roids. You don't need it. If you're a young athlete, even if you want to be a bodybuilder, but you got to know how to train. I train my body Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. I did legs and back, 20 sets apiece. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, chest, shoulders, and arms, 20 sets apiece. And when I tell you it was brutal, but you got to know how to eat. You got to know how to train if you want to do it naturally. It's possible.
That routine, you can find plenty of stuff on caneprotein.com, correct?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, everyone check out Cane Protein, CANE, like it says on his hat, caneprotein.com. John Brown, thank you so much for taking the time. I learned a lot today. And
I appreciate this, brother.
Glad we had this chance, man, because it's been too long.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, man. I listen to these guys, like, man, I'm still alive, man. Yeah, I'm the guy who taught you. Look, I went to a bodybuilding show like 4 years ago or something, or 6 years.
Yeah.
And they're still doing my same routine. No one changed. I'm like, wow, that's the same stuff I did years ago. No one changed it, It's the same thing.
Yeah, well, so you were an innovator for sure.
Where are you located, Ron?
I'm in Boston, but I lived in LA for 10 years.
Oh, you did?
I was there from 91 to 2000.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's when I met you back out there a long time ago. I met you with
excellent.
I met you with Melvin. That was the first time I ever met you, I think. Yeah,
I forgot. I forgot about they called it Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was his nickname.
Because he was in a fraternity, and they all had nicknames, and that was his nickname.
I forgot about that. I'm gonna call Melvin up today. Hey, Buffalo.
Yeah, the weirdest. I remember the weirdest things sometimes, but yeah.
Really?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, John.
Yes,
John
sir.
Brown, everybody. Mr. Universe 2 times. 2 sons standing out in the NFL today. And man, they wouldn't be there without you for sure. So,
Ron, thank you, brother.
Thank you for the time, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for watching Ronline Report. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, leave some comments, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.